The Senate may or may not recall that the minister representing the Minister for Industry, Energy and Emissions Reductions was subject to an order for production of documents by this chamber, by motion of this chamber, with which the government has not complied. The order for production was moved by Senator Canavan and Senator Patrick, and the requirement was that this be tabled by 10 a.m. today. Well, unsurprisingly for a government who avoids all accountability, as we saw in the House of Representatives yesterday with their voting to hide the position to protect Mr Christian Porter, this government has failed to comply with provision of the modelling. It does seem passing strange, doesn't it, that a government that has spent so much of the last 8 long years saying to people you can't have a target without a plan, you can't have a target unless you know what it means, is going to such lengths to hide the economic modelling they are doing or they have done for their climate plan. Senator Canavan, I think, has been rightly calling for the release of this modelling by his own government. We don't agree on very much, Senator Canavan and I, but we do agree on this. We do agree that the government should provide the modelling, and I remind the Senate of Senator Canavan's tweet on 19th of October 2021, "If this modelling is so good, why does it have to remain a secret?" Now, as everybody knows, Senator Canavan and I would have very different views on climate change, but what we do agree with is that this government shouldn't keep this secret. The problem is this government is addicted to secrecy, it's addicted to covering up, it's addicted to not providing information to this chamber. Time and again, the chamber calls for documents, calls for information, and we see the government refusing to provide them. It is the same attitude that this Prime Minister demonstrated yesterday. Yesterday, Mr Morrison used the power of his office to instruct every coalition MP to vote against an inquiry into an anonymous $1 million donation to Mr Christian Porter. I mean, it is extraordinary. You only need to outline the facts of yesterday to be struck by how extraordinary it is. And there's a higher point here that I think is worth making, which is what does the office of Prime Minister mean and what should it be used for? Well, too often with Mr Morrison, the power that is associated with the office of Prime Minister is used to cover up, is used to protect people, is used to avoid transparency and accountability. And we saw that yesterday, the first time in 120 years that the House of Representatives has seen the government vote against a speaker on such an issue. So let's coming back to the modelling. We've had a long discussion in the media between the National Party and the Liberal Party about net zero emissions by 2050. We've had an extraordinary scenes here in this chamber with a cabinet minister threatening the government. She's now a cabinet minister threatening the government with things getting ugly. A cabinet minister refusing to back the Prime Minister in. I think I have never seen a cabinet minister campaign against a Prime Minister in question time before, but that's what this week has been like. And we have a member of the government, Senator Canavan, and a member of the crossbench, Senator Patrick, rightly calling for the economic modelling associated with the government's climate policy. So I say to the chamber, and I say to all senators, it is the government is now saying that they've had a change of heart on climate. I don't believe them, and I think the Australian people don't believe them. We all remember what Mr Morrison was like with bringing in his lump of coal and saying electric vehicles would end the weekend and saying that renewable storage was a big banana. We know all that. We know this is all fake. But what we do want to understand is the economic modelling that the government is predicating its policy on. So if Mr Morrison is serious about net zero emissions by 2050, if Mr Morrison is serious about demonstrating that he actually wants to do something to get there, if he's serious about his assertions, belated assertions around jobs, he would get over his addiction to secrecy and he would disclose the document, the modelling that he's been talking
Senator
about,
Wong,
as Senator
your
Canavan
time
called for.
has expired.